Good evening and welcome to the Willmar City Council meeting for Monday, October 18th, 2010. Roll call.
Mayor Heitke.
Here.
Councilmember Reese.
Here.
Christensen.
Here.
Anderson.
Here.
Amman.
Here.
Johnson.
Here.
Stockton.
Here.
Fagerly.
Here.
DeVlieg.
Here.
9 present, 0 absent.
Thank you, Kevin. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good evening and welcome to this meeting. Tonight we have a presentation from Donahue and Associates to tell us about the wastewater treatment plant. And I did a double take in seeing our friend Mel Oden's back here at the staff table. The job didn't work out, Mel.
Yeah, it is nice to be back, but yeah, it is still working out.
Oh, it is. Okay. Well, welcome back. It's nice to have you at our meeting. We will move into the agenda. The first thing is whether any council members have any changes, additions, or deletions to the agenda. Seeing and hearing none, we'll go to the consent agenda.
Move to approve. Second.
There is a motion to approve, and it's been seconded. The consent agenda tonight includes the minutes from the last City Council meeting on October 4th, the Utilities Commission minutes of October 12th, the Building Inspection Report for the month of September, the Housing and Redevelopment Authority Board minutes of September 14, 23, and 30, and the Willmar Community Center minutes of October 6th. Council members, is there anything you wish to discuss?
Pull the HRA minutes.
HRA is being pulled. For which date, Steve?
September 30th.
30th. All right. Anything else? With that exception of September 30th minutes of the HRA, those in favor of approving the rest of the agenda say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? That carries. Councilmember Amman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. After reading the minutes on their special meeting that the HRA had with the County Housing Redevelopment Authority, there was some discussion on combining services or collaborating with services in some form and fashion due to the Dorothy Gaffney retiring after 40 years of service. I'm sure she'll be very, very well missed. But underneath, Candido County Commissioner Dick Larson requests the Woodland Center's WCMH be added to page 11, section 3, since they are partnered with Willmar AHR in several programs in the past. I'm not sure what that all involves. I wish I had some clarification on it to understand it. But due to this, the changes that are going to be made or hopefully made to the county HRA, I'm wondering if maybe we should have a representative, Mr. Christian, somebody be informing the council as to the changes of the HRA. That's my primary concern. That's going to be happening in the future. I guess I'd like to have it for discussion if anybody has any thoughts on that, what we should do as far as the council. Should we be concerned or should we not be concerned about the changes that are taking place with the county and the city?
Councilmember Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Well, I took the liberty, I visited with the HRA board chair and asked that when they're at our finance meeting in November, I asked her to give a little bit of an update at that particular time and talk about the sizes and the programs and that sort of thing. So that'll be limited. I mean, that's not going to be a real detailed thing, but it at least will give us some overview of what they're thinking about.
Okay. If everybody's comfortable with that, I'm fine too.
Councilmember Christensen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I do sit on the HRA board meetings as a liaison from the council monthly. I didn't attend this particular meeting because I was out of town. However, I do know there are ongoing discussions about the merging, but it's something that we need to be educated as a council on how both of these boards operate and the amount of each entity is worth, the value of them. presently Willmar's HRA has about, I think it's $5.6 million in assets, and the county is about 1.5. So when we merge the two, we need to think about that, and a few other items that are on there. The only thing that they have in common is funding. They get funding from the same places. They do have two different, should I say, goals, and we need to think hard about it before we jump in and say merge these two. And again, I talked to I think it was Kelly, who's going to come to the finance meeting, and told her, here's what you need to explain to the council. Educate us about the two of them before we jump into anything, and that's what I got out of it.
Mr. Mayor, I guess if we could just be updated or briefed on the changes that are taking place, it would be for everybody's knowledge. It would be good to see what's going on.
All right. And it looks like we'll get some of that information at the next finance meeting.
Sounds like it.
Do you want to go ahead and approve?
I would like to move to approve these minutes, Mr. Mayor.
Second.
There's a motion, and it's been seconded to approve the minutes of the Housing and Redevelopment Authority Board for September 30th. Any other comments? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries.
November 22nd.
We are now to the Willmar City Council open forum. Is there anyone in the audience that wishes to address the council and mayor tonight? Seeing and hearing none, we'll move on to number 8 on the agenda, which is a presentation from Ken Sedmark of Donahue and Associates to talk about the wastewater treatment plant and the project completion. Welcome, Ken. Come on up.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, council members. Pleasure being here this evening. I remember standing here, Jim was about 4.5, 5 years ago in front of this body and talking about your wastewater facility. At that time, I was accepting your agreement to hire Donahue as your program manager. And at that time, I discussed the issue of being here at the end of the project as well as at the beginning. And I can tell you that as the project is winding down, it's not ended, but it's winding down as we speak. This facility is just a wonderful plant, wonderful folks to have been working with. And I just want to compliment you and the council on an excellent job working together with everybody, all the entities within the city and the state, as well as the federal government. So with that, I'd like to just talk through this program. It is a program, more than a project. The wastewater program was a very all-encompassing effort by many, many folks here within the city. I'd like to start out by bringing you up with starting out with an outline of what I'm going to present. There's a timeline that I'd like to talk about of wastewater treatment here in the city, and then why we relocated and replaced the facility, what program management was and meant to the city, the milestones and some of the facts that we see as major items within the program, and then the finance and water quality issues as well. In 1930, you built your first wastewater facility here in Willmar, and when you think about that, that's 80 years ago. That existing site, or old site as we call it now, was the site of your treatment. So some of those facilities are over 80 years old. That lasted about 30 years, and then you had to expand your facility to about 2.5 million gallon a day flow in 1960. And then that lasted about 20 years, and you again added on to the facility and brought it up to about 5.04 million gallons a day. After 1980, there were several projects that went on. One was an odor control project in 1988, and then the Jenny-O Turkey Store pretreatment facility was built in 96. And then we had the biosolids facility, which you purchased, and then you built the biosolids tank out near the brush site, which is where we are with our existing facility, right around 96 through 98. And then a recommendation came through in a facilities plan to relocate and build a new facility at your existing brush site area. At that point, the council and the city was working on a financial plan and needed to continue upgrades at your existing facility to meet water quality standards. So projects were implemented in 2001 to replace 20 of the aging RBCs, and then again in 2003 the other 12 were replaced. And then moved ahead with program management in 2005, where you hired Donahue and Associates at that point. And then we put together a roadmap plan of program management, followed by a facilities plan to expand your facility to 7.5 million gallons a day average flow with a peak of 16 million. And then move on into design. Design was in 2007. We did do some construction at this time as well. Some sewers were also built. And then we began construction in 2008. And now here we are in 2010, startup of your new wastewater facility. So you can see it's been a labor of love with wastewater here in Willmar. At this point, the plant is fully started. It is operational, and the existing facility is shut down and is ready for replacement. Why did you replace and relocate? We had failed rotating biological contactors. These are the main treatment facility at your existing old site. You can see here that these were falling apart, breaking, and needed to be replaced, and we had significant odor that occurred because of the failures. And this technology is failed technology as determined by the US EPA in the country. And it was that way because of the way in which it was proposed to operate. In some cases, in some facilities, when it's properly applied, it works very well. But in this case and in many, many other installations, it was not properly applied. We also had new regulations that were upon us, both for phosphorus and ammonia. Willmar is the second largest contributor of phosphorus to the Minnesota River. Now it is not. There were algal blooms on Hawk Creek and also in the Minnesota River at Shakopee, and a lot of that was contributed here, and now it's been abated. The ammonia as well is another issue. It's a toxic compound to fish and needed to be removed. Also, the Mississippi River, of course, has a dead zone at its mouth, which is now a little blacker after we went through this summer's spill, unfortunately. Made the entire situation there much worse. So the entire country is working toward reducing phosphorus and ammonia and nitrates to address the apoxia issue in the Mississippi River mouth area. And everyone's moving in that direction. And you're just part of that group that's now contributed to that solution. Program management. You elected to proceed with program management for this overall program versus a design bid build project where you would hire an engineer and they would come in and design a facility for you. You recognize this as greater than just a project. It is a project that has around it encompassing other constituents, other issues that are in front of you, including your major industry, including other communities, the county, other groups, Hawk Creek, for example, and your business and industry, as well as the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency. It's an all-encompassing aspect here to have a program where Donahue became an extension of the city, became part of the city. And that helped us really get to know and understand Willmar better get to really understand the heart of the city and what needed to be done to make this a successful project. That foresight is really the key to a successful project all the way through here. The public relations, of course, is very important. We put on various presentations throughout the city, as well as your constituents here. Some of your staff put on presentations to the service groups. We had our media here in town with Dave Wright. Dave did an excellent job of keeping everybody informed in his publications, and he's just a super journalist, in my opinion, presenting the truth. Excellent information for everyone. Also on the financial end, financial packages, funding packages were put together, presented to the federal government, to the state, to help us with the financial end. The project is not going to move ahead unless it has that financial piece. And we've been able to secure some grants, surely not as many as we'd want, but we secured some, and it's helped to decrease the cost here for the users in Willmar. Rate study also was provided by your rate study advisor, and we assisted those folks with that information. So this gives you the main pieces of what the program items and issues were that we worked into, as well as the engineering end of it. The program milestones that were covered throughout this project included a guidance document, sometimes called a roadmap or a recipe for the items that we were addressing in the program. Then we moved on into planning, design, construction, and finally into startup, and then out with the old and in with the new, and that is decommissioning your existing facility. This busy slide here is the roadmap we presented back in 2005, and it showed the planning area here with the steps that we would have to go through in order to get MPCA approval of the plan. And it was a very comprehensive plan. We covered literally hundreds of different alternatives for the facility, and came down to about 17 that we finally worked through and came out with a facility that we have today. But this planning phase is where you really save your money and get you down to what you really need versus what you could have. From the planning step, we moved into design, and we expected design to be done in February of 2008, and it was. We were able to move ahead with other folks in the design team besides Donahue. That as a part of the program, we had a local architect as well as geotechnical people involved. And then moved on into construction and startup here. We expected to be done May of 2010, and here we are August of 2010 with a facility that's going to meet the permit requirements before the December 1 deadline of 2010. But beyond that, we had other parts to the program, including capital improvement sub-program and infrastructure management sub-program. In the capital improvements, we looked at other facilities that were needed within the city in their sewer system and collection system, as well as in the infrastructure management aspects, we looked at planning and prioritization for those facilities and other projects that were needed besides the wastewater facility. To bring that wastewater into treatment. So here was the facilities plan. Took a year to complete, was approved by MPCA in a month with no comments, and the reason it was because they were a part of the process of developing that facilities plan right here in Willmar. That was an excellent effort by MPCA to come here and spend some time with us and know what we were doing, so by the time this document came to them, it was a review document. Also, we did a comprehensive collection system plan here, which identified needs at your pump stations. You have 25 pump stations in town, plus collection system piping that needed to be replaced and improved. The planning document took into account service area. Your existing service area is in this black checked line here, and the new planning area is the green area you see outlined right through here, and it's going to encompass more of the lakes to the north. The redlined area is for expanded area for 2055, and typically that's what you would look at for your sewers, and the internal area is what you look at for your treatment plant. Treatment plant should last you at least 20 years. Equipment typically is a 20-year life, and sewers usually is in the 45 to 50-year life range. So this planning document helped us develop flows and loadings for the facility as well as for the collection system. As you know, we built the treatment facility out about 5 miles west of town at your existing brush site. And to get the wastewater there, the plan was to take the wastewater from your existing site here located at B and run it straight out to the facility. It was decided to use a gravity sewer to collect the wastewater so you could eliminate a couple of lift stations on the way, the Arby's lift station, and what we eliminated that one, as well as another lift station located in this area. Beyond that, we also are looking at collecting the industrial waste from 2 lift stations and putting it into a force main and pumping it out directly to the facility. The blue area here shows a combined interceptor, force main, excavation, all in one. And then at this point, there's a third pipe that's added, and that's the outfall coming back from the plant back to Hawk Creek. So this was the plan, to build a collection system to take the wastewater out to the new site. At the new site, this is what it basically looks like today. With your administration building, the blue tanks are your biosolids holding tanks. The existing biosolids holding tank and outload facility here. This building here is a thickening building to thicken the solids going to these biosolids tanks. And then we had industrial treatment, which includes a selector unit here, 2 oxidation ditches and 1 clarifier. And then the municipal portion is the headworks building here, aeration, and 2 clarifiers back here, all of which culminates in the wastewater going to a disinfection unit and out. Here we have 2 standby generators, 1,750 kV generators for standby power in case we have a power failure at the site. All that was planned and then eventually moved toward design. Future projects included the Lakeland Drive interceptor, which needs to be replaced, as well as the Western interceptor, which will also collect wastewater from Highway 12 pump station to eliminate that station as well. So those are future projects. I believe the Western interceptor is planned presently. Now we move into design. And design included folks from Donahue as well as city staff. And the city staff that were involved included Mel Odens, who is here tonight, Colleen Thompson, Jim Gower, Terry Thole, and Paul Marcus were our premier folks that were working with us through workshops and meetings. Other folks that were involved at times, including, of course, Mick Schmidt and Kevin Holliday. I mean, we worked with you folks quite a bit, as well as Steve Olkins and Bruce Peterson. At times, we even had Marv involved here, Marv Colvin, in reference to fire protection at the wastewater facility. So we encompassed a lot of folks, Willmar utilities as well, electric utilities as well. So again, being a part of the city and involving everyone made this project come together. But as you can see, we had 68 engineers and technicians involved in 7 different engineering disciplines, 32,600 hours of engineering time, almost 14 months. I think it was really 12 months of hard design, a couple of months there where we went through and looked at cost changes. The workshops and meetings that went on, we ended up with 10 projects, and that was another concept here, was trying to make sure we had projects broken down so we could have local contractors involved in this project, because we knew it was a huge project. And so we broke it down into 10 projects, 1,060 plan sheets, over 1,700 pages of specifications and bidding documents, plus we had geotechnical engineering and architectural engineering. And the fee here was $4.68 million for the engineering, which is less than 5%. I think it's about 4.5% of the actual construction cost. The plan that was put together then for the facility included an upgrade to your existing facility, which was very small, very minor effort, that was done immediately in 2007. And then 2 projects in 2007 and 8 for interceptor that were built because you were doing some paving and some street improvements in this area. So we built this first, and then we let the larger contracts out for the interceptor, D3 as it's called, the force main interceptor and outfall, D4, the force main, D5, and then the 2 pump stations, and of course the major treatment plant item, which is number C here, which is C. The major construction of the facility and interceptor was begun in 2008, September 29th. Groundbreaking, October 28th of 2008. First concrete was poured in November 20th, 2008. And then startup, just in August here, August 24th, we started the industrial side. And then finally cut in all the final municipal side the 28th of September. So from August 24th to the 28th of September, we went through startups at the facility. Substantial completion is twofold. The second substantial completion I've shown here should be tomorrow for the solids handling portion. We were at a initial substantial completion for the liquids portion. I believe that was in August. So the second part of this is going to occur tomorrow. Of course, we have an open house coming on Friday, so we hope everyone can attend from 1 o'clock until 5 at the site. And then complete operation here December 28th, the MPCA said we'll call it the first of the year. So January 1, 2011, we have until that time to make sure we have everything in complete operation. Right now, water quality standards are being met, but there always are a few little things that happen, and for the most part, they've been minor. Final completion, July 19th, 2011. That gives us time for the contractor to complete any final issues within the project, as well as making sure the grass grows. So that's all part of it. Construction milestone is shown here. The conveyance system, we had 130 workers on the 7 conveyance projects working through 2008 and 9 to complete these projects prior to the facility, the wastewater plant being completed. The interceptor was 48-inch and 54-inch size, and the interceptor is used not only to convey your wastewater, but also it's large enough to provide some time in case of high flow. High flow issues do occur here in Willmar at times, and the interceptor can be used and is used as a equalization basin, and it's self-flushing, and it does not contain any odors. The interceptor has been inspected and tested to ensure that it has minimal leakage. There's always a little, but it's been inspected by our folks all the way through. Manholes are also constructed along the length of the interceptor, every 600 to 800 feet in that area. In town, it's a little closer. The existing treatment, the new treatment plant, is shown here. And we had over 100 workers on the site on a day, 50 subcontractors and vendors working or supplying materials, and over 300 personnel over that two-year period of time worked on the facility. So you can see that having 50 subcontractors and vendors supplying equipment and materials and all the workers working together to put a project like this together is not just something that you plug in and run. It's a puzzle that has to be put together, and between the contractor and our staff on site, Dean Showquest and John Bryant, we had Mr. Palmer and Stacy Cook on board, as well as Rhonda Ray. They pull all that together from the plans and specifications into a working system. So it's quite the achievement. Some plant construction facts. Yard piping, 23,000 linear feet. That's just between tanks. Wire, 596,000 miles of wire. That does not include the telephone system. That's a lot of wire. Miles. Concrete, 25,000 cubic yards. Steel, 2,600 tons. Your capacity of the facility, 7.5 million gallon a day average flow. Right now you're running on the municipal side about 3.5 to 4, and on the industrial side about 1.2. The peak flow, 16 million gallons per day. The highest we've registered in Willmar is 14, and that was when you had a street flooding. So we're hoping that we can address that at your new facility. Plus, like I mentioned, the interceptor will contain about 2.5 million gallons of holding capacity as well. But it means also that the city has to continue working on their collection system to minimize that water as runoff water coming into the system. That does occur. As I mentioned, the industrial flow is 1.2. It has a capacity of around 1.5, and it takes about 3.5 days for the wastewater on the industrial side to get through the treatment plant with the 4.6 million gallons of liquid volume that it holds. On the municipal side, there's 5.2 million gallons because we have an additional clarifier here, and it takes about a day with your existing flows. It'd be less than a day with the design flow. Biosolid storage, those large blue tanks, those 3 big blue tanks plus the one in the ground, that equals 6.3 million gallons of biosolid storage, and you need to haul out your biosolids twice a year, and that's going on presently to farmland. So there's enough storage here for 6 months, actually more than that, because this is a 20-year plan. There's enough room there as you grow over the next 20 years to store solids for 6 months at a time. Just to give you a little flavor for the process and how how it's designed and running. The industrial wastewater comes into what we call a selector. Now, this industrial wastewater has been pre-treated. It goes through a treatment facility at Genio. And so what's coming in here has very little solids. It's mostly dissolved material. And it goes into a unit called a selector. We adjust the pH up with magnesium hydroxide. Usually that's similar to milk of magnesia, so it's a pretty innocuous material. But we add that at this point, and the selector then brings the waste solids, the wastewater, and the microorganisms together, and allows the microorganisms to absorb the waste at this point. They then go to these oxidation ditches, and just like little Pac-Men, I think Mel always liked that term, Pac-Men, they just chomp away at the waste. And if you can envision that, that's what's going on here. And they're aerated, they're oxygenated because they're consuming oxygen while they're doing their work. At that point then, after the oxidation ditches, the mixture of microorganisms and water called mixed liquor passes a point where ferric chloride is added to precipitate phosphorus. The phosphorus that's left over from this eating process, because the microorganisms eat not only some of the food but some of the phosphorus, but there's always some left over, and that must be chemically treated. And the mixture then goes to the final clarifier where the solids settle. The solids or microorganisms are returned back here to the selector, and the process starts all over again for them. They get fed again, and it just goes around and around. The water is clear now, and it goes into ultraviolet light disinfection. It's aerated and goes to Hawk Creek. On the municipal side, there's no pretreatment, so we had to install a pretreatment facility. First, we pumped the wastewater up 45 feet with screw pumps, Archimedes screws, and they can pump boards. I mean, they're able to really move large material. Of course, we don't see any boards, but the point is they're a non-clogging type of pump, and they're just a massive way of moving water nicely up an incline. They pump the water up into fine screens. The screens have a 1/8 inch opening to collect solids on those screens. Also collect a lot of grit and greasy material as well on the screen. The screenings are discharged into a washing device to wash out the innocuous organic matter, and then it's compacted and put into a plastic sausage bag. So the odors are contained. Just like if you were making sausages at home. I mean, the material falls into a long bag, and then it's tied off on both ends and stays in the dumpster. So there really aren't any odors that are occurring in this headworks area. We then pump the water again up into the municipal selector. Again, does the same thing. Gets the bacteria and the waste together, goes through the ditches here where it's aerated. Again, same thing, hits the phosphorus removal point with ferric chloride, is clarified, and then the solids are returned, and this continual process occurs. The water then moves on to the ultraviolet light disinfection, post-aeration, and out to Hawk Creek. Now, the accumulated solids after a time have to be removed from this process. The microorganisms continue to build. So that's your waste solids or your waste biosolids that go to the storage tanks. And on the way, they're thickened. They're thickened on a belt. It takes about 10 seconds for the material to be flocculated with a polymer. It goes across a belt. The water falls out, and the solids are discharged out the end of the belt. That material is then pumped to solid storage, and then twice a year is truck hauled to land application. Very simple. Some pictures of the equipment. Here are your screw pumps. There are 3 of them. Two are fully operational, and the other one is a standby. So each pump has a capacity of 8 million gallons for a total of 16 million gallon peak flow. The screws are actually 75 feet long to pump up that 45 feet, and each one has a 125 horsepower motor connected to it. There are also, I think, 61 steps. Is that right, Colleen? 61 steps to get down to the bottom here, in case you need to close the gate and work on this area. Typically, the lower bearing here is not replaced for 15 to 20 years. It is grease lubricated automatically. When the pump runs, the grease lubricator runs. The wastewater then comes up to this 1/8 inch opening bar screen, and it's what's called a step screen. And each one of these, you can just about see a step in here, but you can see the material that's collected on this screen. The way it's working is the wastewater passes this screen, and on the front side of the screen, as this material is collected, the water level goes up in the channel. And once it gets to a certain height, that's about 2 feet, or I'm sorry, about 12 inches, it takes a step. And then that step is clean, the next step is clean, and water then runs through, and the water level goes down, and it collects, and it continues to do that. So it operates intermittently based on water level differential across that screen. And by doing that, you get a mat of material, so you get to collect more material. Here's the oxidation ditch. There are 4 of them. Each one is 1.5 million gallons of water, containing, again, the microorganisms. The aerator is here. There are 2 of them on each ditch, each 200 horsepower, and they aerate the wastewater and move it around this ditch, keeping them in suspension, keeping the oxygen going as well. These vary in speed depending upon the oxygen concentration in the water, and that's automatically sensed and adjusted. From there, they go to the clarifiers. As I mentioned, this is a settling zone. The water comes into the center, and then it's distributed around the outside, and then it goes out into the tank, and the solids settle to the bottom, which are, again, the microorganisms, and the water goes over the top and is then disinfected. Here's a couple of samples. These are the influent municipal wastewater, and it looks relatively clear, but there are quite a few solids here on the bottom. And then this is the industrial, which is a little more tainted. It's a red tint to it. This is the mixture that you would have in the aeration in the oxidation ditch, and this really shows the clarified material, solids at the bottom and the clear water at the top, and this is actually what goes on in the clarifier. And then this is your final effluent that is discharged.
The glass at the right, Ken, is that the one the mayor drinks at the grand opening?
Yes, absolutely. We provide that in a dedication mug.
City administrator and I will share that.
I can see the toast coming. Yeah. As I mentioned, the biosolids accumulates in the facility, and at maybe 2 or 3 times a week, this belt thickener operates where the solids are flocculated and put on top of this belt. The belt is moving very quickly in about, like I said, 10 seconds from this end to the other end. The water falls down here, and the solids stay on the belt and are discharged and pumped to the biosolid storage tank. So when you see this in operation on Friday, you can see a lot of water falling down here because 90% of it, of the water is removed. And then you have the 1.5 million gallon bio storage tanks. There are 3 of the blue ones, and there's a 1.8 million gallon one that's in the ground. And here's your discharge into Hawk Creek. The water here actually is clearer than the water in Hawk Creek. And you can see a plume not as well here on this picture, but if you would go down to the outfall, you could definitely see the clarity as it goes into Hawk Creek. Out with the old, in with the new. The final project is the decommissioning, and your old site facility is shown here next to Candy Mall, and it is in the process of being raised. All the solids waste solids have been removed from the facility. The facility has been disinfected, and there should be no odors at all. I was there today, and there are no odors around that facility at all. So the contractor is to begin removal, I believe, here in the next week or two. Isn't that right? The next week or so. So what's that site going to look like when it's decommissioned? All the treatment units will be removed, and a couple of the existing buildings will be renovated for storage, and then the existing admin, maintenance, and garage area will be upgraded. Major maintenance will continue to be done here for the city. Lift station maintenance will be done here for the city. We thought that would be best to be done here in town because you have most of your lift stations, you have 25 stations, they're in town. So it would save travel time and such to do that here. So that upgrade will be done, and all of that will be completed by next summer, as well as the pond, which is just a site drainage pond. The financial aspects, we have a list here of the projects from planning through final construction, the budget, and then the actual. The bold shown here are actual numbers that will not change. They're closed out. The ones that are not in bold still potentially could change. However, we don't believe they're going to change substantially or much at all. Land and legal still needs to be completed as well, but the construction engineering we expect to be right about at budget as we move forward here over the next, well, 10 months before we finish with the facilities that are being decommissioned. The remaining projects here, construction projects here, the D1 interceptor is completed, the force main is completed, 5C sewer is completed. So we expect to be in the range of $3.1 million under budget instead of an $86.2 million project. We expect to be closer to $83.1 million. Funding. We have a federal, state, and of course local sources of funding. The American Recovery Reinvestment Act stimulus, ARRA grant, $447,179. State tribal, EPA state and tribal assistance grant, $477,900, STAG as its acronym is termed. And then the state, the Clean Water Fund, or Clean Water Revolving Loan Fund, there are 3 loans at around $80 million. The state also has a wastewater infrastructure fund loan for $7 million, and then there's a total maximum daily load, or TMDL, I think that's for the phosphorus portion, of $2,692,935 from the state. Local, the city reserves were tapped here during the project, $500,812. So we had an estimated total revenue of $91,147,542. That's been reduced because of our estimate of the $86.2 million project, and I'm sure that'll be reduced again, as I mentioned earlier. And then we did have a federal stag paid toward the PFA loan debt that was done earlier of $291,000. So there was another grant of $291,000 as well.
Is that the new plan?
We don't need that one anymore.
Ken, thank you
comments?
for a wide-ranging presentation. It's nice to see the history and the progress as it was made over all these years. Council members, do you have questions or comments? Councilmember Ahman.
Thank you for a great presentation and your capabilities of putting in layman's terms.
Oh, you're welcome.
Public. It was very educational. One question I had was on, you mentioned Lakeland Drive Interceptor, the future renovation or changing of that to increase the size of it and projected date. I don't know if that's ever been discussed. At what point in time can you foresee, or do you foresee, or City Engineers Department see that's going to have to be taken place?
I don't know that I have a projected date on that. I don't know, Rhonda, do you?
Good evening, Rhonda.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. Councilmember Allman, to answer, the city has it in their 5-year capital projects. They are not proposing at this time to up the size of the pipe, but you do need to rehab the pipe, or there may be some areas that need total reconstruction. It has a lot of what we call inflow and infiltration because of the pipe being old, and then you have a lift station up at what was the old state hospital that needs to be totally replaced. So that would include it in that system. Does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. One other thing, and this might be a little facetious, but everything works. It's mechanical, but eventually something breaks. What's the weak link? I was thankful that you showed the auger that needs constant lubricating. What's the weak link that we have to maybe predict for, or do we have any set predictions on repairs that we can budget for in the future when things eventually wear out?
Well, Councilman Alman, equipment, you're right, has a life, and what we have built into the facility is redundancy in some of the major components, such as the pumping. The pumping has redundancy. The screening, each screen can handle the entire flow, so we have a redundant screen. So the headworks is redundant, and actually your system there at that point is such that it's sized for even future beyond 20 years. The aeration facilities that you have, that may be the weak link. We have 4 aerators. Right now, we probably could operate with 2 on the municipal side. We're not doing that because we want to operate all this equipment initially to make sure all the bearings are good and everything. You know, get some operating time on the system, okay? So there isn't a lot of redundancy there with those aerators. You could operate either 2 aerators or 4 aerators on each system, and right now that would probably be, in my opinion, the weak link, so to speak. However, that may be a futuristic issue in 10 years before that becomes an issue. Your clarifier is the other thing. The 2 municipal clarifiers are there and 1 industrial, and the reason you have, again, more municipal clarifiers is because of your flow change, your peak flow changing. And if one of those clarifier drive systems would go down, then you're going to be at half capacity at 8 million gallons. But those are I used to work for an equipment supplier, and those are 25-year units, and you will have plenty of lead time to see that. There is an equipment replacement fund that's a part of your financial package that you're consistently putting money into. So as you move forward and you see units that are starting to age, then it's time to look at replacement.
Doesn't the gravity system also eliminate a lot of the potential for mechanical failures?
Absolutely. Yeah, it gives you a lot more time rather than kick on a second screw pump or an additional second stage pump.
And was one of the reasons why we went with gravity.
Absolutely. Well, that interceptor is just going to pay for itself over the years tremendously because, again, it allows for the equalization to occur. Also, you won't need to be building lift stations as you grow to the west. So all those are very, very important reasons to have that. Good questions.
Other comments? Councilmember Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thanks, Ken. And I think your presentation tonight just was kind of a fitting close. I know we're not done, but it just exemplifies the professionalism that we've seen from Donahue throughout this whole project. You and your staff have been phenomenal. You know, when I think there was a great deal of trust developed. When your staff would come and answer questions for the council, we believed them. And I think you're to be commended on doing a terrific job, and looks like you're going to bring us in under budget, so that's all good.
Right.
Thanks.
Right. You're welcome. Thank you very much. Thank you. It's been very mutual. I can just say that again. Tremendous staff here in Willmar. It's been a real joy. Sincerely. Real joy.
Councilmember Reese, did you want to make any comments?
Yeah, I hadn't raised my hand yet, but I sure do. You know, Ken, we came off of, just before we did this project, the city came off of an airport project, and I can speak for one city councilman, I can't speak for the rest, but there was a number of frustrations and difficulties that we had to overcome on that project. And over 5 years ago, I remember very well, a very snowy day. We sat upstairs. I'm trying to remember who it all was. It was Mel and Colleen and Terry Thole and Randy Alslaben from Jenny O Turkey Store and myself. Is that it? That sat on a I don't know what you called it, a review panel or an interview panel. And I think we talked to either 3 or 4 engineering firms. Three engineering firms. And that interview panel came to a very quick and clear decision of which firm to hire. And it was based on Donahue and Associates' record, their experience, their reputation. And you know, and also the detail that was put into it that Donahue and Associates is known for. And you've just proven to us over the last 5 years that reputation is well earned. And well earned as far as a project very well thought out, planned, even the financial side of it, very thorough. I had another thought, and I can't remember what it was. But you guys are just, oh, I know what it was. And then the whole project comes in. How could I forget this? The whole project comes in over $3 million under what the estimate was. And I remember asking you, as you stood at that podium, I said, how sure are you, before we let the big projects, I said, how sure are you on your estimate? And you felt pretty solid on it. And it still came in under.
Right.
But I just, on behalf of this city council person, you know, and the old wastewater treatment plant sits in my ward and Councilmember Dawkins' ward. You know, it's a project for the whole city, but it's been a thorn in our side for over 20 years. And it's such a pleasure to have it out of town, out of our now business district, which was outside of the city when it was put up. And I can think of so many things, and things that you just mentioned, that the thorough and the detail and the work that you guys have done, the professionalism you've shown us, the looking to the future and knowing what needs to be done, that this is going to be something that's going to serve the citizens of Willmar for many years and at the minimum cost. And one of those details is, Mick brought it up, the gravity. Gravity all the way from the old plant to the new plant. Mm-hmm. That's amazing to have that size of pipe that's going to serve us for 50 years? Who knows?
It'll be beyond 50 years, I'm sure.
But I just
I'll be watching from above when that's, I hope.
Yeah, you and me both, as we sit on the lake, right? But I just want to give as much praise as I possibly can to Donahue and Associates, and that's not taking anything from Graham or any of the subcontractors. It was all just done exceptionally well. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Well, you're very welcome. Thank you very much for your comments. Appreciate it very much. It's been a fun project, to be frank.
Councilmember Dockin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you very much, Ken, for the great presentation. Now we have to pay for it.
Yes.
And I think it's really important that the citizens understand the rate study structure and how that was arrived at. In following your presentation, I'm wondering the process for residential versus the process for industrial. Which one is more expensive and more time consuming, or is there a difference?
Which one is more time consuming? I don't quite understand.
Is it the same length of time from the point that it enters that process until it's finished?
The treatment of the wastewater?
Yeah, right.
The treatment of the wastewater on the industrial side does take a little longer time to be in the water. I mean, be in the system. However, it's only really taking in that wastewater 5 days a week. The other 2 days, they're pretty much shut down with their facilities, and you're consistently running on the municipal side 7 days a week, 365. So there's a little variable there. Again, with inflow and infiltration on the municipal side, that time frame is shortened significantly. So,
yeah, I think it's important that we have a formula or a structure that we're dealing with when we initially set up the rates and how it's going to be paid for it over a period of whatever number of years that's going to be. It's a 20-year life for the plant, I heard you say, right?
Well, that's what's planned, and that is usually how you plan the facilities. However, there is no doubt that your concrete and mortar is going to last a long time. For example, your existing site, you had concrete and mortar there for 80 years. I'm sure some of that is still there. I'm not quite sure where it is, but I'm sure some of it's still there. Most facilities are like that. Your mechanical equipment, though, and that is going to wear. And as a result, you are going to be into changes and replacement as you move forward.
Yeah. At our last Finance Committee meeting, Mr. Schmidt indicated that you were part of determining the rate structure. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that's important that we establish the ground rules early so that we know going forward why we're going to have to increase rates to both the residential or municipal and the industrial.
Would you like a presentation on the rate structure? Is that what?
I think that's a good idea. I would like to see
you're asking for?
Yeah.
I think that's maybe something. I'm not prepared to really sit down and
No. But
go through
at
that.
some point in time, it would be interesting for us to understand in detail that rate structure and how it is figured.
Okay.
Thank you.
Councilmember Almond?
One more question, thank you. On the recommendations you had, we had dealing with residential and commercial waste. In the report, there were some changes made on the discharge of 25,000 gallons per average workday, or 250 milligrams per liter of TK in excess of 40 milligrams, of TP in excess of 5 milligrams. As far as the enforcement of that, do we know at this time, and maybe the city engineers could ask us to, I'm just curious, with the 2 or 3 pages of pollutants that are not allowed in our system, that we're trying to also educate the public with what's proper and what's not proper to put down into this new system we've created. How are we going to enforce that, and are there any other facilities other than Genio that are required a pre-treatment facility?
There are no other facilities required to pre-treat. However, the ordinance is set up for you to review their wastewater, collect samples of their wastewater, and see how they in fact are line up with the requirements of the ordinance. So it gives you the authority and the teeth to move ahead with that issue.
Well, we have something new. We don't want to destroy it. I was just curious as to.
Fine.
And these are not too. The limits that were recommended, the 250 milligrams per liter, that is not too restrictive.
No.
Okay. Thank
Not
you.
at all.
On businesses. All right. Thank you.
Councilmember DeBleek?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd just like to say thank you for all your work on this, and just a couple comments. I know this project has been something that we've been working on. I know Doug has been on the council 24 years, and there's been talked about for that whole period of time. I've been here 20 years, and it's been a project that's been on the table and discussed, and moving forward with it that whole time period. And I know when Donahue, when you came in here and presented the design, I think one of our major concerns was that you give us a plant, build a plant that is simple to use, simple to operate, simple to use, and doesn't smell. And I think you accomplished all those criteria. I know I was skeptical on the odor part of it, but after touring the plant out there is absolutely no odor that comes off in this plant. Or anything. So, and it's a very, very nice, clean, simple design facility, and I think it'll provide service for the city well into the future. I think past that 20-year time frame, this plant's going to be there for a number of years past that. So, thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Councilmember Christensen?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And thanks again, Ken. The phosphorus that we're eliminating, we've been buying credits for the last 3 years from, I think, Mankato. Is there an amount that we could sell credits to other facilities, and what would be the maximum amount?
Willmar is the second largest contributor of phosphorus to the river, and phosphorus, second largest.
Still is?
Was.
Was, okay.
Okay, was the second largest, and so you had something to trade to, you know. At this point, since that's eliminated, there really isn't anybody upstream to trade to. So at this point, I don't think there's really a trade deal that could be done. Surely something that, I mean, we could look at further, but I don't really think it's there.
Okay, thank you.
You've removed it. Okay.
Councilmember Fagerly.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Ken, for coming tonight. As a person who ran for the city council because the odor issue was so bad in our neighborhood, I thank you very much. It's an awesome plant out there. I'm so happy I could almost cry, but it's really going to benefit the southeast part, you know, the Candy Mall and Cashwise, and I hope more businesses will expand out there now. And I want to thank your staff for being so professional, and they were at every public works meeting. They come to the city council. I've never seen that from a contractor or architect firm like that, so thank you very much. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Councilmember Dockin.
Thank you again, Mr. Mayor. You made an intriguing comment early on with regard to MPCA, which I'm thinking that's the Minnesota Pollution Control Authority, right?
Yes. Yes.
You said that they were a part of the process from the beginning.
Yes.
How did that happen? How did you make that happen? Are we talking in terms of communicating with them, coordinating with them? How did that process start?
We did just that. We coordinated and communicated with them from the beginning to know, number one, what are the regulations? What do we see coming up? You know, what can you give us for information so we can apply it to this project? And they were more than willing to work with us. And when we told them what our alternatives were during the planning process, they were part of that review to offer suggestions from their end. And in the planning end, they were part of that, as well as through the design and into startup. We've Pam Meyer, who's your regional engineer here from Minnesota Pollution Control Agency, has been on site several times during the plant construction, for example, and just recently here, right after startup, to see how we were proceeding. MPCA had some real concerns with our startup. I don't know how many of you folks were aware of that, but your permit had to be changed a little bit after we put a startup plan together last November and sent it to them in January, and they looked at it and said, look, fine. They got back to us, I believe it was in March, and said, well, we're going to have to make some changes because we didn't expect you to be discharging wastewater from 2 treatment plants at the same time. And we had to do that because we had to bring up your new plant slowly to feed the organisms slowly while they reproduce and grow until we had enough of them to do the treatment at your new site, while your existing site was continuing to treat waste, and we were flushing the organisms that we were growing at your new site, at your existing site, down to the new site to build more and more organisms. And we said, if you don't let us discharge at both locations, we're going to violate. And when we explained our plan to them again, they agreed. And they changed their approach, and we worked through a slight permit change, and we didn't violate. It worked out very well. So Pam Meyer has been part of that all the way through, and she knows and understands what we're doing here, and it's been a wonderful relationship. So that's just one example. I mean, there are several others, but I want to give you that recently that came up. So
state agencies can be worked with then?
They sure can. They sure can. There are some folks in a state agency that are regulators. There are others that are regular people.
I think they recognized that they were working with regular people, too, the
There you go.
MPCA.
There you go.
And I'm going to draw this to a close here with just a couple brief comments, and then I'll ask our city administrator if he wants to say anything, or if Mel wants to say something as being part of it early on. You know, it's up to you guys. From my perspective as the mayor, you solved a huge problem for this community. You know, technically you gave us a long-range waste treatment plant that will serve the community for decades. But on a very, very practical level, you solved the odor problem, which is what we constantly heard about over many years. And I think the community is grateful that that problem has been solved and put to rest. And all the equipment issues and the finance issues, they'll take place as needed, but the odor problem is now gone. And businesses and residents and citizens can relax about that and grow our community the way it needs to grow. The other thing that I would comment on is the on-site staff that your company put in Willmar so that they could coordinate closely with our staff could reach them, could talk with them, could meet with them. And I concur with other members of the council who said that your staff have always been available, they've always been visible, and they've always been professional. And I certainly appreciate that as the mayor, and it's an example of what other projects and other companies ought to be doing that deal with city government. It just establishes open communication and trust, and thank you for letting your staff be on site working and living, you know, here in Willmar. We're still looking for federal money.
We are.
I know you guys are working on it, and please keep working on it to whatever level you can. But this is a huge cost to this community, which we are ready to bear. But any help from the federal government will offset the cost to our citizens and businesses, and hopefully we'll get some relief in the future from that. And overall, just a job well done over a great length of time and great expense and great staff. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. And we did have a couple program managers here. I'd like to mention Craig Holmes was here for a number of years, and Craig is still living in the area, and he'll be on site on Friday as well at the open house. So look forward to seeing him there as well. So thank you very much. Thank all of you for your kind
comments.
A second. Appreciate it.
Mick, did you want to offer any comments? Or
I would, Mr. Mayor. Thank you. With regard to Mr. Dawkins' comment, I agree that it's easy to work with state and federal agencies when those people take the time to know and understand what a community is trying to do. In this case, clearly Ms. Meyer did that, and we were able to work very effectively with the Pollution Control Agency. With regard to Donahue and Associates, I just want to say that I appreciate the effort of our staff. I know that Coyne and Jim and some of the other folks at the wastewater treatment plant have put in countless extra hours on this project and were instrumental in the decision-making process throughout the whole way, as was Mel. And I invited Mel down tonight because of this presentation, and I'm hoping that he can join us on Friday as well, because he played a key role in this project over the last few years. I don't want Ken to go away with too big of a head, so I should tell you that I too appreciate the work Donahue did. We had and continue to have issues at the administrative level, and we eventually find ways to work them out. But all in all, it's been a good project, and they've done a good job for the city.
Mel, anything you want to comment on? Or
Sure. Thanks, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. I did appreciate the opportunity to come back. I think one thing that we need to remember is we did this project, we did it for growth, and we also did it for regulatory reasons. And one of the things that we also did it for was the odor. But I think what we also need to remember about the odor is we didn't just move the odor, we controlled it. And I think that that's important to remember, that we talk about we got the plant out of town, but we didn't move the odor out of town. I think one of the council members said it best. You go out there is no odor, and I think what we were able to do through this design was find a way to control it, so there is an odor. And so that's kind of a key to remember, so that there isn't this illusion that we moved it out of town, if you will. So there's not odor out of town. But the other thing that's kind of ironic is it's almost 2 years to the day when we broke ground, it's fully running. And that's maybe something that you plan and hope for, but you just never know if it's going to really happen. But anyway, I just thanks for the opportunity, for the support that we've had through the council and the consultants, and also the city staff.
Well, I'm looking forward to Friday afternoon, the open house, and probably some coffee and cookies out there. Thanks for setting that up, whoever is in charge of that. And Ken, thank you for your time and your presentation tonight.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you, Mayor. Council members, thank you.
You know, I was thinking in terms of financing this wastewater treatment plant, when we got down to the end of the baseball stadium and we needed some money, we got a family to help sponsor it, and I'm wondering if there's anybody out there that wants to help sponsor a biosolid storage tank or something. I suppose that's not done very often. This tank dedicated to or something. I haven't seen too much of that. Okay, we're at number 9 on the agenda, and that's the Finance Committee report for October 11th. Councilmember Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The first item on our agenda had to do with the public comment period. There was no one there to comment, and we had received no correspondence or phone calls, so there was nothing to report on that. The second item was our continued discussion of the 2011 budget, and we looked at the wastewater treatment plant rate schedule ordinance that was adopted by the council in February 2009, and that set sewer service rates through 2012. 2011 proposed budget for the waste treatment plant incorporates the applicable rates that are found in that aforementioned schedule. Once the new facility has been operating for about a year, the council may consider reviewing the sewer rate schedule and amending it if necessary. Staff also explained that, where possible, expenditures are going to be tracked separately for the municipal versus the industrial usage for our use and consideration of future rates. Some further discussion included restricting a portion of the fund balance to cover a full year of debt service costs, plus 6 months of operating costs. That was all for information only, having to do with the 2011 budget. Third item were some reports. We looked at the third quarter CVB and the third quarter RAC 8. And the final item was it was mentioned that the budget meeting, the big budget meeting, will be November 22nd, starting at 3 p.m. And that's when we'll have the HRA, the utilities, and the Rand Rice Hospital will be there to make their presentations. So unless there's questions, I would move to file these minutes.
Second. There's a motion, and it's been seconded to file the minutes of the Finance Committee. Any other comments? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next are is the committee report for Public Works, Public Safety for October 12th. Councilmember Reese.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First item on the agenda was in regards to our tobacco-free policy in our city parks. And at our meeting, we had Steve Brissendine, our Community Ed and Rec Director, along with Bobby Joe Berg from the Candidacy County Public Health, and the Community Education and Rec Joint Powers Board had referred this item to the Public Works Public Safety Committee, and Ms. Berg explained the current health reform program and that tobacco use is the leading preventable cause of death in the United States today. Our current policy, which was established in 2003 by the Council, states that no tobacco use is allowed in the city parks during youth activities. The Community Ed and Rec Joint Powers Board reviewed that policy, and they are recommending that we consider revising it to read, "The City of Willmar does not allow the use of tobacco products on/in city-owned parks and buildings except within the confines of a vehicle in a designated parking area." There was discussion, and the result of that discussion is a motion coming to the council to approve the policy change that was recommended by staff and the Community Ed and Rec Joint Powers Board, and I would so move.
Second.
There's a motion, and it's been seconded to approve the policy change for the Community Ed and Recreation regarding tobacco-free policies. Comment?
I got a question.
Councilmember Reese.
And I should have asked staff this ahead of time. I mean, it's just a simple little question. I don't know who wants to answer it or who can answer it, but when we say within the confines of a vehicle, is that with the windows open or closed?
Not a discussion we had, Councilmember Reese. So, you know, I would assume if the intent is to keep the secondhand smoke away from other participants or public, windows up, but I don't think it's that big of an issue.
Well, but that was kind of my understanding of it when I first read it. It says within the confines of a vehicle. I mean, if we're stopping secondhand smoke, it just says to me that the windows are up. So.
Other comments or questions? Councilmember Christensen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Are we ever going to do anything about the exhaust that comes from cars sitting in the parking lots too, then, attending these events? I spoke against this at the committee meeting, and I still do. I think we're trying to regulate people's lives, and I haven't smoked, I never did, I don't like smoke, but people who do smoke, it's a habit, and sometimes we accommodate habits at other facilities, but to not let them smoke on in an outdoor area in a park or at a soccer game or football game, I don't like it. I think it's ridiculous. I think that carbon monoxide from vehicles is just as dangerous as smoke, secondhand smoke, and I'll leave it at that.
Councilmember Reese.
I just want to make one more comment too, and I think it's something that as the citizens are watching and listening to our discussion, you know, we're not just talking about in a park, because it says city-owned parks and buildings. You know, we're talking about people standing outside the door of the Civic Center as hockey players are going in and out of the building, and people standing outside the door and smoking. You know, we've got to broaden, make sure that we understand how broad this is. It's not just standing out in a green grass field having a smoke and the kids are hundreds of yards away. So.
In a minute, I want to ask our city attorney his opinion on this in terms of enforcement. But before that, I'd like to ask our police chief, Chief Weifels, can you comment on what you see as the problems here or the benefits of changing this policy? From a police point of view, and you know, how would you patrol or how would you enforce this stuff?
Well, clearly, however, the city ordinance is written is how we're going to enforce it. We're going to enforce the ordinance to the letter of the way it's written.
No ordinance. It's a policy.
We're not going to take manpower or set up special patrols to go walking around parking lots to see which windows might be down an inch or two and emitting smoke out onto the parking lot by any means. I think it's one of those laws that if we receive a public complaint, we handle it. You try to do it first through investigation, which means warnings. You try to educate the people. Obviously, smoking, I think everybody in this room would agree that it's not good for your health. But if the educational aspect doesn't work, then we take stronger measures. That's about it.
Thanks, Chief. And for our city administrator, do we have any comparison to other cities on something like this? Is this what other cities are starting to do?
Well, I think maybe Steve has some examples of what other communities do. I just wanted to point out, Mr. Mayor, we're not talking about an ordinance here or a law. It's a policy at this point.
So, Mick, is there any kind of consequence involved here other than asking for cooperation and stop smoking if you're smoking out on the grounds? Is that what it is? It's asking for cooperation?
Well, I think as a practical matter, that would be the case if you saw someone smoking on city-owned property. You would point out to them that it's it's a city policy to do that. In terms of enforcement, I guess I would defer to the city attorney.
Okay, I'd like to go back to Steve. Have we looked at other cities, Steve, and is this common practice, or are we stepping out into kind of territory that nobody else is stepping out into?
Mayor Heidke, members of the council, this policy that's in front of you is similar to the City of Andover's policy. Bobby Joberg brought multiple policies to the Joint Powers Board, and we reviewed, I want to say, at least a handful, if not more than that. Her game plan right now as a county health person is to go to all the cities in the county and to have them enact similar policies as well. So that was the intent. Yes, we did look at a number of them. We did not look at it from a punitive state, but more of an educational state, and that's the fact that make the awareness out there that we would just as soon not have the smoking being done in these facilities and grounds, very similar to what the school district has currently, as well as many other entities within the community.
What does the Willmar School District say now? Or
smoke-free grounds.
So not on the playgrounds, not on the parking lots?
Correct.
Not around the football stadium, anything like that? Okay, Rich, do you see any complications here from your point of view?
Strictly be a matter of asking for voluntary compliance. If somebody refuses to comply and they're outside, there is nothing we can do. If they're in a city building, of course, state law already applies to smoking. I don't believe the state law applies to using chewing tobacco and that type of thing. So once again, you'd have to ask for voluntary compliance from anybody that's chewing tobacco in a city-owned building, and anything other than a city-owned building is strictly asking for voluntary compliance, and if they refuse, nothing we can do.
All right. Council members, any other comments on this? Councilmember Amon, did you have something?
Yeah, I talked previously, just before I came in here, with a couple of council people about it. I attended the meeting the other day at Public Works and listened to the council people discuss it. And I'm just not really clear as to what severity this problem is. How bad is it? I also want to throw out a philosophical thought, and that is, it's a bad thing to do. Smoking is not good. We don't condone it on city buildings. Yet, are we setting double standards by allowing drinking in our public buildings, inside our public buildings? Is that offensive to other people also? I think we have to be careful here on to what extreme we set this. I do agree with the idea people should be respectful to other people if they're smoking. It is not something you should do in front of children. It is not something you should do in front of the doors of a public building, especially on a cold winter day. It's not being respectful to other people. But I am concerned about people's rights being taken away too. And in this particular case, where do we stop and start? And I just think we have to be careful on how we set this up. And enforcement, I don't know if it can be dealt with another way. I'm not sure as to how many complaints we've had on it. Maybe it could be done in a different form or fashion where people are not allowed to smoke in any entrance areas, or, I'm also concerned about what's going to happen next. We have double standards. We promote our Coffee Fest or Willmar Fest by having a beer grounds right in the public street. Is that offensive to people? Could be. Should we allow smoking on city streets? Public right of way? At what extreme do we go as far as government telling people what they can and cannot do? And I guess we have to be careful in that regard. That's my only concern. Thank you.
Go ahead.
I don't think your analogy is a very good one, Steve, because if you choose to drink,
it's debatable.
If you choose to drink, I don't think it's going to affect my health. If you choose to smoke in my presence, it could affect my health.
Yes, most definitely. I agree with you. But they're both bad things to do. They're both bad for your health. Yet we as a city are encouraging it by allowing it on all public properties. I don't think that's debatable.
All right, there's a motion on the table, and it's been seconded. Councilmember Christensen?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to make sure I heard Rich right here. Did you say, Rich, that if somebody's smoking outside like outside the courthouse, or excuse me, outside City Hall and they're on the sidewalk, that we can't enforce that? Because I think that's what this is intended for, isn't it?
Correct. We cannot. We can ask people not to do it. I believe the county board may have adopted an ordinance that affects courthouse property. At least there is signs on the courthouse property saying you cannot smoke on courthouse property. I haven't bothered to check, and nobody has asked me to enforce that, but it's certainly not our policy. It's either a policy of the county board or the chief judge of the district. I'm not sure which.
But this policy that says no, can't use tobacco products on or in the city-owned parks. So if you're at Rice Park and somebody's smoking there, we can't enforce it. We can just say, would you please put the cigarette out?
Correct. The only way you'd be able to have something enforceable is to do it by ordinance.
Okay. Because I get the feeling, well, they can't smoke in the buildings because it's state law. So it's kind of an unenforceable policy for outside. And I guess I understood at the meeting that it was because of the smoking outside, like at the door of the Civic Center or at a football game or soccer game. So it's unenforceable. We can just ask somebody to not smoke at a football game, per se. Another reason that I bring this up is I don't get any phone calls on this. I do get phone calls on the train noise, the flooding problem, officers being shot at behind the subway, and being assaulted on the east end of Willmar. We dance around a smoking policy that comes from the park community ed and rec. I haven't heard any outcry from the public, and to me it's more government from the top down, and they're telling us what to do instead of us telling them what we want done. That's all I'll say.
Councilmember Fagerly?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The request came from Kandiyohi County Public Health Service.
Government entity.
Well, they're trying to keep us healthy.
I'm from the government and I'm going to help you. Yeah.
And we should ban alcohol, too.
You read that once.
I think
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor. The point is here, you are trying to dictate morality.
No.
And also, we're trying to protect people's rights. And I think you have to be very careful on that. And this is a very small, it's a good idea. And I praise the people that came up with the idea and the Drug and Tobacco Task Force that I serve on. But also you have to be cautious of people's rights. At what point in time do you take them away? And I'm concerned that too much of this is not a good thing. It's not giving people the right to do it. Alcohol causes liver disease and it costs the taxpayers money, so does smoking. They're bad vices. They're called sin taxes and we pay for them. But at what point in time do you say you cannot smoke outside in a public area when you're away from people? I'm sorry. How far do we go? I think this can be addressed in a much more subtle way rather than it being détente. And that's just my opinion.
Anyone else? All right, the motion's on the table. It's been seconded. And this has to do with changing the policy. And the policy states that the City of Willmar does not allow the use of tobacco products on or in city-owned parks and buildings except within the confines of a vehicle in a designated parking area. That's what you're voting on. Ready to vote? Okay. Kevin, is that a roll call or motion?
You may call it, but it's not.
All right, I'll call a roll call. I'm sure there's going to be a divided vote here.
Councilmember Reese.
Aye.
Christensen.
No.
Anderson.
Aye.
Amon.
No.
Johnson.
No.
Dockin.
No.
Fagerly.
Aye.
DeBleek.
Aye.
4 ayes, 4 nays.
Well, I can either let it die for lack of a majority or I can vote on it. Is that right, Rich?
Right.
One or the other. I'll vote in favor. Policy change. It's not an ordinance, it's a policy. All right, let's move on.
Next item was the multi-housing crime-free program within our city, and Chief Weifels was at our meeting to review it with the committee. And again, this is voluntary, three-phase program offered through the police department by and through Marilee Dorn, and uses crime prevention techniques. It involves a training session. It involves the landlords meeting 7 minimum security requirements of crime prevention through environmental design and implementation of a neighborhood watch for the rental complex. And it was noted that landlords are made aware of this service, that it's available. And this was for information only. The next item was the annual quote for the 2011 tree requirements for the trees purchased by the city, and there was 3 quotes, and the lowest quote was from Stacy's Nursery for furnishing trees in 2011, and that quote in the amount of $22,996.05. I would introduce a resolution to accept the low quote of Stacy's Nursery and authorize the mayor and city administrator to enter into an agreement on behalf of the city.
Second.
There's a motion and it's been seconded to accept the quote from Stacy's Nursery in the amount of $22,996.05 for tree requirements for 2011. Further comment about this? Roll call.
Councilmember Christensen.
Aye.
Anderson.
Aye.
Amon.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Dockin.
Aye.
Fagerly.
Aye.
DeBleek.
Aye.
Reese.
Aye.
8 ayes, 0 nays.
The resolution passes.
The next item was a change order, and Rhonda Ray from Donahue & Associates was there to give an overview of the cost to date for construction of all aspects of the wastewater treatment facility, which we've discussed earlier tonight. And it was an $86 million project. It is now expected to come in $3 million under budget, and that change orders to date totaled 0.2% of the total project costs. John Bryant was also at our meeting from Donahue & Associates, and he presented change order number 6 to Project 812C, and that consists of 15 items that came up during observation and startup of the new facility, totaling an increase of $91,540.28 to the contract with Graham Construction Services. And he explained each item, and it is the recommendation of both Donahue and our city staff to accept the changes as presented. So I would introduce a resolution to approve change order number 6 in the amount of $91,540.28 to project number 812C and authorize our city administrator to execute it on behalf of the city.
Second.
There's a motion, and it's been seconded for a resolution for a change order number 6 for project number 0812-C in the amount of $91,540.28. Any other comments or questions? Roll call.
Councilmember Anderson.
Aye.
Amon.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Dockin.
Aye.
Fagerly.
Aye.
Bleak.
Aye.
Reese.
Aye.
Christensen.
Aye.
8 ayes, 0 nays.
The resolution passes.
The last item was the monthly report on our wastewater treatment facility relocation project, and Rhonda Ray from Donahue and Associates was at the committee meeting and reported on activities for September. Program management activities included a meeting with city staff regarding funding and finance issues, the submittal of pay request number 12 for the 30-year loan to the PFA for Clean Water Revolving Fund, and pay request number 12 for the PFA for American Recovery and Reinvestment Act. Donahue continues to assist with seeking funding opportunities from the Water Resources Development Act and the EPA State and Tribal Assistance Grant. They've been providing information for the city's asset management, maintenance, and operational programs, and document production and review as provided for legal counsel on the City of Willmar versus Quam. Plans were prepared for dedication ceremony, which we discussed here earlier tonight, an open house, and that'll be held this Friday, the 22nd. Projects 813D3, 814D4, and 816D6 are substantially complete, and the contractors are working on punch list items. Meetings continue between the contractors and property owners regarding final restoration of properties, and project 815D5 was approved for final project acceptance and payment. Project 812C has achieved substantial completion. Coordination of training continued with receipt of vendor operation and O&M, operation and maintenance. Operation and maintenance manuals, and work on plant operation and maintenance manual. Discussions were held with the contractor and the city for work proceeding by time and material change order and additional change orders needed to complete the project. So that is the end of the minutes, Mr. Mayor. I would move to file the minutes.
Second.
There's a motion, and it's been seconded to file these minutes. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We have announcement of our next meetings, Finance.
Mr. Mayor, the Finance Committee will meet Monday, the 25th at 4:45.
October 25th, 4:45, Monday. Public Works, Public Safety.
Tuesday, October 26th, 4:45.
Okay, Public Works, Public Safety, October 26th, 4:45. Community Development.
Community Development will meet Thursday, October 28th, 4:45.
Okay, Thursday, the 28th for Community Development, 4:45. Labor.
Wednesday, the 27th, 4:45, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, Wednesday, the 27th for Labor, 4:45. Any other meetings? If not, I'd like to call on Steve Brizendine to tell us about a couple of upcoming events for community education.
Mayor Heike, members of the council, residents of Willmar, it's our pleasure to announce a couple of activities through the Community Ed and Rec Department. The first one being this Thursday, October 21st, from 2 to 5 p.m. There will be a volunteer fair at the Community Center. It's an opportunity for the public to hear from agencies and organizations within the community about themselves and any volunteer needs that they might have. So some interest that you might have in ways of giving of your time. We could help with a match with some community organizations at that event. Again, Thursday, October 21st, volunteer fair, 2 to 5 p.m. at the Willmar Community and Activity Center. On Sunday, October 24th, 2 to 5 p.m., we'll have our annual Pumpkin Patch Festival. Highlights of that include carnival booths, costume parades, a great pumpkin design, and the Haunted Ghoul bus tour. Again, the Pumpkin Patch Festival, Sunday, October 24th, 2 to 5 p.m. at the City Auditorium.
Good. Thank you, Steve. Any other events or announcements? Chief, anything here? Oh, wait a minute. I got them here. Huh? Want me to read this, or?
If you wish.
Sure. Okay. The monthly COPS meeting has been moved from November 2nd to November 3rd due to the elections being held on November 2nd. In December, the Willmar Police Department will continue with their normal schedule of holding the COPS meeting on the first Tuesday of every month. So in November, it'll be Wednesday night instead of Tuesday night. Okay. Something different at this next upcoming COPS meeting is that the Willmar Police will be hosting a prescription and drug take-back event. If you want to get rid of expired or unwanted prescription drugs or over-the-counter medicines, drugs that are no longer used, medicines from deceased family members, unknown tablets or capsules, any other legal or illegal drug substance, you can do so by bringing those medications or drugs to the COPS meeting and depositing with the officers present with no questions asked. Prescriptions that are in their original container should have the patient's name crossed out for confidentiality reasons. We will not accept hypodermic needles. The Willmar Police will accept all drugs and take responsibility for them. They'll pay for the proper disposal at a location approved by the Environmental Protection Agency, and the Willmar Police Department is doing this in partnership with the Candioi County Drug-Free Communities Coalition. So if you have medications or any kind of drugs except for hypodermic needles, bring them to the COPS meeting November 3rd, and that meeting starts at 7 p.m. at the fire hall, right? Correct. At the fire hall. Okay?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
Also, you shouldn't flush them down the toilet. We don't want those chemicals going into our sewer treatment facility and into our water. We're finding out it's a big impact, and that's one reason why we're also on the coalition trying to do this. So please don't flush them down your toilet. Some of them you can. You can check with your pharmacy or check with the drug company. I just wanted to add that. Thank you, Mr.
Did you want to add anything else, Ken? Or that's the message? Okay. All right. Is there anything else to come before the council tonight? If not, take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
We have a motion and it's been seconded. We are adjourned.
Wasn't that fun?